Welcome to Stupid Builds, where I play subscriber-suggested builds. This is your Strand Hunter, boring, unattractive, and smells like a cafeteria garbage bin. This is your Strand Hunter with the best Strand build I have played so far. Notice the immediate rise in charisma, sex appeal, and social credit score. Today I'm going to show you 5 builds constructed by the deeply disturbed individuals and suspiciously wealthy individuals on our live stream chat. Some of these builds are unbelievably fun, while others are some of the best builds I've had in PvP so far. But before that, you see this? I literally have never shown this graph on a video before, but I think this is just a bit ridiculous. If you don't mind, consider subscribing for more creative videos about making Destiny 2 more fun for you. Thanks. Let's get back to the builds. Our game plan is to make grapple be ready as often as possible. Why? Because depression can't catch you if you're flying fast enough. The main protagonist of this build is the extremely underappreciated Traveler's Chosen, which grants stacks of light on kills, which can either be consumed for 10% ability energy per stack, or kept for bonus weapon stats to our already juiced stat total. We also have the newly reworked Catalyst, which grants osmosis and surplus. This weapon works great for a highly aggressive playstyle, as our grapple can get us close enough to our enemies to be able to smell the fear on them right before we set them up for a Zoom meeting with Jesus. We can grapple into the fight and decide whether we want to give them the Green Lantern backhand, or we can decide to give them the superhero landing. Ensnaring Slam costs our class ability and will suspend any nearby enemies for a few seconds after activating, making cleanup with our kitchen gun even easier. The build creator, however, did have an even funnier idea in mind, and as a man of the memes, I love this choice. The Radiant Dance Machines as our exotic armor will grant a 5-second period of infinite class ability after dodging near an enemy. This also includes our Ensnaring Slam if we dodge first. Unfortunately, in our game we never got this to happen, but as a wise man once said, it's not about winning, it's about sending a message. And just the mere threat of infinite suspension is enough to warrant our arrest for strange and unusual punishments. And of course, I would be remiss not to talk about the bow gameplay that you're undoubtedly seeing complement this like two Canadians in a fist fight. Our bow is the Wolf Tone Draw, which is an arc precision frame bow with impulse amplifier and harmony. Besides being a fantastic poking tool at range, this bow with quick access sling mod can quickly swap to our Traveler's Chosen for easy cleanup and of course more stacks of light. Did you know that bows are actually banned in most sweat tournaments? This swapping and poke damage is why. Lastly, our fragments. We are running the Thread of Ascent for bonus handling and airborne effectiveness after a grapple, Thread of Generation for bonus grenade energy after just simply dealing damage, Thread of Continuity for increased strand debuff time, and the last fragment's up to you. Personally, I would have rather chosen 6 Coyote for easier access to our strand dive, or the new, look, I'm not going to try to pronounce this exotic, this thing, for woven mail on grapple uses, and then combine that with the Thread of Transmutation, which creates tangles whenever this exotic that I can't pronounce is used. But maybe you're not looking for a good build. Maybe you're more the type that is willing to sacrifice your KD for a better chance at getting fan mail from an angry guardian. May I present to you the Glock and Ball build, an unfortunate staple on this channel that has now grown a few green hairs with the addition of Strand to Destiny 2. This build uses my most hated exotic in the game, Ruinous Effigy, which creates a transmutation ball upon killing a target, which can then be slammed into the ground or used as a really crappy Ward of Dawn when picked up. Our aspects and fragments here are the same, including this exotic that I can't name. In other words, this build is just the last build, but weird, and it's sadistic. Get a kill with a lean bean, pick up the ball like a child, and then slam dunk that bitch like LeBron James. The saving grace to this absolutely horrendous show that this build was is the Steady Hand, a high-impact hand cannon with both quick draw and snapshot sights for a very easy, ready-to-go mid to close range tool. If you do decide to run this build for whatever reason, just understand what you are in for. This build is a living embodiment of quote-unquote sending a message. Do not expect a wealth of success like the last build. Expect a mini-game that will force your enemies to take a breather from sweating like their lives depend on it, and cope with the very concerning and very aggressive hunter flying at them with malicious intent. Even still, I have played far worse builds than this, and you might have fun with this. And isn't that the point of playing a video game? Our next build is the perfect tool for shutting down shotgun rushers. Stasis has fallen by the wayside this season. Why run the Freezy Darkness subclass when you have the funny String Darkness subclass? The answer is because the freeze effect is extremely slept on. This build uses the Cryosthesia, which allows us to load an instant freezing shot after a kill, and the Explosive Personality, a solar waveframe grenade launcher with Genesis and Frenzy. As a quick aside, I still think a lot of Guardians do not know that Genesis, which reloads weapons full magazine upon breaking an enemy shield, actually works in PvP now, which means that as long as you are accurate with your Explosive Personality, you literally never need to reload. The flow of this build is to get a chain of freeze started by priming a target with the Explosive Personality, then perforating their skulls with the Cryosthesia, then using the freeze shot to start the chain all over again. If done correctly, this is a brick wall for aggressive players to break themselves on. You can comfortably space out anyone within CQC with a quick shot from the waveframe into the swap at the Cryosthesia for cleanup. And of course, once you get the freeze rolling, it makes 1v1s almost a guaranteed victory every single time. For our exotic armor, I ran this with the Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves, which increase swap and reload speed of sidearms, as well as granting us bonus damage when we are critically wounded. This made the swap between the grenade launcher and the Cryosthesia even more free, and allowed us to more easily clean up from our waveframe shot during the fight that maybe might have came with the cost of our health. Hindsight, however, I think this build would have benefited greatly from a movement exotic like the Mask of Bacchus, which could grant us a long-range dodge to close the gap, or just the classic stompies. This is because the build's major weakness is that it lacks any range. I had to entirely disengage and avoid any fights that were longer than 20 meters, which makes us susceptible for an easy nerf just by being on the map like Disjunction. For your subclass fragments, aspects, and so on, run this with Shatter Dive and the Touch of Winter. Both of these give us the classic Shatter Dive combo for another anti-shotgun ape tool. And to complement our frequent freezes, run Whisper of Hedrons, which grants stability, aim assist, airborne effectiveness, mobility, resilience, and recovery after freezing a target, and Whisper of Shards for more grenade energy upon shattering our Glacier Grenade, and Whisper of Fissures for even more shatter damage. That includes our frozen targets as well as our Glacier Grenade itself. The rest is up to you, and if you're looking for something new to try, this is both powerful and effective. I cannot recommend this build enough. Do you remember the Manticore, the exotic SMG that everyone kind of collectively saw and just said, meh? This build is a refresher that the Manticore was made for Strand. In case you forgot, the Manticore is a high-statted 900 RPM SMG that builds up an anti-grav thruster while you're dealing damage on the ground, and then expends that anti-grav thruster energy by holding you in place and dealing bonus damage while you're dealing damage in the air. We are again using this exotic that I can't pronounce for this build, which, if I had the catalyst for the Manticore, would be over 30% of damage resistance, including the woven mail that we get from the exotic helmet. We paired this with a sniper as well as the same fragments and aspects from our other Strand builds. They really are the best for most PvP builds. Our sniper was the Eye of Soul. Our Eye of Soul had both snapshot and moving target for even better consistency. Truth be told, I think that this build is a lot better than I am making it seem. Something about the airborne combat that I just can't seem to get my head around it. The Manticore was, of course, great on the ground, but I ended up trading a lot with other enemies, which is likely a byproduct of this map just being a tad bigger than most. Lastly, I am not gifted in the art of sniping, and it didn't help that my chat forced me to stand up for this fight. Yeah, I let my chat mess with me for money, and I have some seriously disturbed viewers. You wouldn't expect simply standing up would affect you as much as it does, but what does this mean for the build? It's good if you're good. It's not as flavorful as I would like it to be, but the potential for greatness is clearly there. Okay, this last build is a bit of a bonus. Not because I did well with it, in fact I did horribly with it, but because it was funny. The build is actually very clever. Firstly, we used the new Final Warning Strand sidearm, which has the ability to lock on and track targets while unraveling them from a full charged shot. And our second exotic was the armor piece, which was the Lion Ramparts, which allows for hip firing while we are using our lift, as well as a generally improved lift with better speed and duration. Like I said, that's not why I'm showing you this build. Sure, this build is clever, and yeah, the synergy between the Final Warning and the Lion Ramparts are clearly there. I am showing you this build because, for some reason, my chat for the price of $50 freaking dollars insisted on making this game a living hell. Do you know what Southpaw does to a man? This. Look at this. I look like I've never touched a controller in my life. And right when I got adjusted to it, they turned it off. I mean, sure, yeah, I was grateful I could function like I wasn't just a dog chewing on a controller, but then like a bad ex-girlfriend, they re-enabled Southpaw and then added 1 sensitivity. What the hell is wrong with you people? You took a perfectly good build and possibly an interesting build and shotgunned its kneecaps and then kicked it while it was down. This build never stood a chance against that chat. Hell, it was a miracle I got any kills at all. Where do you even get that kind of money? What kind of job do you have where you can just spend your spending cash purely devoted on making random people on the internet suffer? I guess I should be saying thank you for the monetary. Is this Stockholm syndrome? Do I need therapy right